Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm here to talk about comic books, new and old. I'm going to be focusing on old for now. I'm quite a big X-Men fan, I would say. Really keen on the characters and the cartoon, especially. Comics I've read quite a bit of, I suppose. I've been reading the Claremont run, a bit of X Factor, a bit of Uncanny, and bits and pieces here and there. And really, I do want to come back and check some of these older issues and I'm starting with X-Men because it is one of my favorites. I think I'll run across and do Spider-Man as well, and I may include some other characters that I like. And I'm thinking of maybe running through the years and seeing how I go. But for now, I'm here to talk about X-Men issue number one, and here we are with the front cover. So it's just interesting to know. I think the angle I'm coming in at is just I'm not going to be going through the story beat by beat, word for word. It's really just commentary on the drawing and the story and things that stand out, things that are different from what I know of X Men and these characters, and things that are interesting to note about their early appearances, things of that nature. So let's get into it. So we're looking at this first ever issue, first ever front cover, and it's so interesting to me how some of these characters have endured over the years. So we're here in 1963. 1st September is the issue, and it's 2025 at the time of recording. For over 60 years, these characters, all of them, are still with us. So I think with Marvel, sometimes they'll throw things at the wall, see what sticks. So it's great to see every character here is still quite well known. So my eyes are immediately drawn to Magneto over here. He's one of my favorite villains ever. I've got a tattoo of Magneto. I think he's great, and it's interesting that that design has not really changed much at all, has it, since that issue one? They really hit home run straight away. I mean, these guys you may or may not recognize them. So I guess some people watching this will be very, very familiar with comics, and they're going to be the guys that correct me along the way. And I hope you do. That's fine. For some other people, you might be coming into this sort of fairly new to comics and some of these characters. So what I can see we've got here is Magneto, and he can control magnetism. So a lot of people think it is just controls metal, but it's actually so much more than that. And I'm looking forward to discovering that as these issues run on. We've got Angel here with a I don't know what he's got, some sort of bazooka or something. I mean, at first I can notice it's made of metal, so we'll see how he gets on with that. We've got Beast. Now, if you're like me and you grew up through the 80s and 90s and 2000s, Beast is not, he doesn't look like this. So, this is probably a good time to talk about spoilers. So, I'm sort of coming in with the angle I'm coming at with it is if it's in the popular culture, if it's sort of very well known, I'm happy to talk about it. But from issue to issue, I'm not looking to spoil issues coming up immediately. But I say that because Beast is blue, isn't he? That's how most of us know him. He's the big furry blue guy. But here he doesn't look like that. Obviously, people in 1963 did not know that was going to be a thing. So for now, this is Beast. We've got Jean Grey here, Marvel Girl, and then we've got Cyclops, of course. Those powers right there. So straight away, what I really like is every character is sort of showcasing their power, including Iceman, Bobby Drake down here, looking more like a snowman at the moment. But what they've done is they've you know nobody knows who the X Men are at this point. When this is on the shelf, this is no there's no Wolverine, there's no nothing. And all you've got is this first impression you've got to make immediately. And I'm sure there's quite a lot of comics around at the time, are there? I would have thought so. So you've got to have your imagination grabbed and pulled in at that first chance, haven't you? So you've got Magneto, he's the villain, and he's got these force field effects around him, so you can see that he's obviously a very powerful character, especially as he's taken on all five of the heroes by himself. Also, it tells us a bit of exposition that Magneto is Earth's most powerful supervillain. So there you go. You got Angel with his wings, so he's got to be attacking with something, hasn't he? So maybe that's why they're giving him the bazooka. You got Beast. You can see his athletic powers have emphasized his feet down here, so you can see there's something a bit strange about Beast. You don't know that he's called Beast at this moment, but you can see he's sort of almost ape-like in proportions with his hands and feet. You got Marvel Girl here. She don't know what she's doing. She's doing something with her hands that looks like something mystical and magical is going on. You got Cyclops with those beams coming out of his eyes. So obviously that's not quite what they are, I guess. I mean, I've always been a bit hazy on exactly what those are. Those some people call them lasers, and immediately that's even I know that's not quite correct. They're sort of a portal to another dimension or something. The punch dimension. I don't know. This is why I'm reading these comics because I really want to delve into what are these characters and what makes them tick. And then you've got Iceman, Bobby Drake. Um, that is not. This was the biggest surprise, really, looking at this issue. He's more like ice, isn't he? He's the Iceman. But here he looks like a snowman, and he looks like he's throwing snow at him, like a crazy snowball fight. But it gets across what and who he is straight away. You know, he can do cold stuff basically. So and then you've got up here, you've got the I don't know what you call this bit up here. This is something I need to learn, but the art style and everything is so rough, isn't it? It's nothing like even in the. I mean, I'm reading the stuff in the 80s at the moment, and that's leagues ahead of what this is up here, and even that is sort of can be considered rough in places. And 12 cents for a comic as well. That's amazing. So in the sensational Fantastic Four style, interesting that they do that because Fantastic Four even in this, I don't think so. But it's interesting they put them on there just so for the casual browser you can see that they're sort of linked. So let's go to the first page. Now, what I like about this straight away is you've got this really quick introduction, haven't you? So you've got um, Cyclops running into the scene there. You've got Iceman. What's he doing here? So he looks like he's spinning down the pole like a fireman or some sort of. I don't want to say, but he's sliding down the pole. You've got Angel flying around the house for some reason. I mean, is this a big room? I don't know. Beast is absolutely smashing his way through the window, and then you've got Charles just sat very still, very quietly, very calmly. And this is interesting because I read somewhere that a lot of these guys who write and make the comics want each character to be doing something. So they very rarely do they want someone to just be sat doing nothing, which is exactly what Charles is doing. Um, and you've got these other characters; they're all doing something. Look, so Angel's fly. He could have just walked in there, but he's flying, and obviously Beast could have just walked up the steps. But no, Beast got to fly through the window because this is your second chance to grab the reader. And Charles very calmly sat there, so you're getting an impression as a new reader that this guy doesn't have to fly around. He people come to him. He's not a kind of he's not going to be the guy flying in and saving the day. He's a calm presence. And what I love about this as well is that is so Charles Xavier. I mean, this is 1963 issue. So this is 1963 issue one. And if you took all these words away and you weren't familiar with who these characters were per se, and you just had a vague understanding, you could maybe figure out that that is Charles Xavier. He hasn't changed much over the years, has he at all? I mean, I can even see here that the eyes and the sort of brow, his eyebrows, that is something that has carried on through the years. He's very distinct sort of face structure there, hasn't he? So in the top left-hand corner, they call him a strange silent man sat motionless. It's mentioned here in this panel of a commanding thought. So that's your first inkling that this guy is maybe psychic or he's doing something with his mind. And then the words, the bubbles here tell you as much. So he's commanding them to come find him. And interestingly here, look, they call it class. Class is now in session. So this is sort of straight away angling it as a school structure. So you get a fair idea very quickly what the relationship is here. So Charles is maybe like the teacher, and these guys are like the pupils, which is exactly what it is. And very smartly, they all introduce themselves as they fly into the room. Uh, More so for us as the reader than for Charles, because hopefully he knows who they are. And down the bottom right hand corner here, you've got written by the legendary Stan Lee, the main man, drawn by Jack Kirby, inked by Paul Raymond, and lettered by S. Rosen. So apologies if I got any of those pronunciations wrong. I only really know who Stan Lee and Jack Kirby are, I'm afraid. What I like about this top panel here on the next page is it's like a show don't tell moment almost. So without saying Charles Xavier can't walk, They reposition him to make him more comfortable and talk about doing so. Again, Angel's flying, he can't help himself. And then you got Iceman and Beast playing and using their powers on each other in a jovial manner. So that shows you some of the camaraderie, and you can see that they're friends as well. And it's another opportunity to showcase some powers. This bottom right hand panel here, you've got Charles psychically communicating with his pupils again, just showcasing that power. Again, you see Beast roaming around on his hands, so again, it's showcasing that athletic ability. I guess this is sort of an early approximation of the danger room. So they're practicing in this room and they're showcasing their skills again, and it's a bit of a exercise, and again showing us what they can do. But it's so interesting that even in these first 3 or 4 pages, so much of what I know of the X-Men is here straight away in the first issue. So much of this has survived. You get a lot of retconning, don't you, with other properties and whatnot. But here, so much of it carries over, so it was a really strong story character concept from the off. Interesting to note here on these particular panels as well, that although we can see that Beast is obviously very talented and athletic and whatnot, he still needs some guidance from Xavier. So he's psychically guiding him through, and it just very quickly shows you and reinforces the idea that although they are the guys on the ground doing the hard work, doing the flying around and whatever, Charles is teaching them. He's the coach on the bench, shouting the orders as what plays to make, and it sets up that dynamic really nicely. You got this panel down here on the bottom right hand side. He's telling Angel it's his turn now, and mistakes are for Homo sapiens, sir, not the Angel. I mean, he's quite a cocky character anyway, I think, isn't he? So that fits right in with what I know of Angel as well. On this page, you've got Angel being too overconfident, and Xavier has to rein him back in. It's great that because that is exactly what I think of when I think of Angel. We've got another cocky character here, Iceman. When are you going to stop taking it easy on me? I want to do more. I want to go harder. That is Bobby as well, isn't it, to a T? So that's great. Well, true to form, look, he actually dresses up as a snowman. It just shows you haven't actually read this issue before. I had no idea he was going to do that, and they've gone straight for the joke straight away. But it's right there, isn't it? Here we've got more playing again. He's showcasing Beast's strength and Iceman's capabilities and reflexes. And you've also got a little bit down here where he says it's astonishing for a 16-year-old, just quickly showing us that they are, well, Bobby at least anyway, is very, very young man. So this particular panel's very interesting, I think. So you've got Cyclops, who's sort of having a go at everybody, and be more careful. And he's very serious. And from his, this is probably the first character moment that Cyclops has, and this really sets the scene for him as a character. This is pretty much he could have said this in any era, couldn't he? This is the Cyclops of today could be talking like this. So that's great. Where Beast is a bit more chill out, man. What's the problem? That isn't how I picture Beast talking as such. So maybe they tweaked Beast's character over the years, but Cyclops, that is very true to form. That and that's great. Love this shot right here. So up to now, aside from the front of the book, you don't really know what this Cyclops guy is all about. It looks really strange. Looks a big thing on his eyes. So we zoom in and we can see his eyes glowing here, just as he's about to use his power. And then the next panel, he fires straight. He fires straight at Beast, and he's look how they've really emphasised up here. Ow! So it shows you how powerful that beam is. So this panel and the one before it shows that he can actually adjust that beam, so he's widening it for more effect, and it just shows you it's not just random blasts out of his eyes. He's controlling it with that machine, that device, that visor. I really like this panel here. It's a real close up of Charles, and you see him close up really really close up for the first time, and it's almost like we're in his mind with him. So it's interesting. It's almost like when you watch a film and you've got the mise en scène, and what are they trying to show you on the screen on a psychological level? And here, this is exactly what they're doing. We're zoomed as close as we can possibly be to his brain without actually being inside his head. And I really like this one. And he stunned them all with this thought, so they all stop in their tracks. It actually says that they're stunned by the force and explosive power of his mental command. So here we can see in this panel that although these guys are jumping around and doing all sorts of, he probably could wipe them all out with just a thought. So being set up as a very powerful, perhaps the most powerful character in this issue so far. And down here, he stops. Yeah, he stops the group to say, "Oh, stop! There's an attractive young lady coming, a new pupil." That absolutely would not fly now. In 1963, I guess they could do that, but that's one of those things where you read it and you think, "God, this is definitely something from the 60s. That is not cool." But I guess it's setting our expectations as well because we have to know that she's attractive. That hopefully they're going to show us that through the other characters' reactions, but it's sort of preparing us almost. And just look at the characters ogling her as she walks to the door. That is again, it's you wouldn't if they were doing X-Men from scratch now, this is not what they'd be doing. So it's definitely a product of its time, shall we say? At least Bobby's got some class. Look, he walks away. I'm not a wolf like you guys. And fair play, Bobby. Nice one. So it's interesting what they do here with the introduction. You see it in so many films and shows and whatnot. You do the smart thing. You introduce a brand new character who only knows what we know, the audience, and the characters have to tell her what's going on, and therefore tell us what's going on. Jean Grey is that gateway character for us in X-Men issue 1. So Xavier's telling her that we know you're a mutant, we're mutants too, we're the X-Men for extra power. I didn't know they were called X-Men because of that. When people, I always thought it was because he was Charles Xavier and they were his X-Men. I think that's probably what it is now, but it's one of those things from the series. It's extra because they're extra men for extra power. And then you've got his introductions here to the rest of the crew, and we see them in their civvies for the first time, looking very smart here, look, aren't they? So that's got to be Warren there. That's got to be Angel, hasn't it? You got Beast, I guess, over there on the far left. I'm gonna guess that's Cyclops in the green, looking very dapper, and then Bobby. We of course get their names as well. So Hank McCoy as Beast. You've got Bobby Drake as Iceman. Slim Summers. I know they call him Slim as a nickname in future years, but he's being introduced as Slim instead of Scott. And then Warren Worthington the third, the Angel. Boys, this will be Jean Grey. She'll be Marvel Girl. Will she? I guess she didn't really get much of a say in that, did she? She only just turned up, and they've already given her a code name. And of course, look at them swarming round as Hank's trying his best to look smart. And you've got Warren there who's straight in. Oh, you make a man's heartbeat faster. Someone get HR on the phone. God. So this is cool. Look, so Slim Scott Summers is getting her a chair, and she moves it with her mind, so we can see her telekinetic power. She's moving the chair, and at the same time, we are seeing Beast being able to jump up out of the way. So good job that he had those. Did she know that he could do that? She might have hurt him otherwise. And there she is explaining the power of telekinesis. She can move things with her mind. We know from later years she's touch psychic as well. But here she's just she's showcasing the telekinetic powers, which I think is probably what she's more well known for these days. So we've got a bit of exposition here. So a bit about Charles. My parents worked on the A bomb. I'm possibly the first mutant. So are they sort of suggesting that those powers came from the atom bomb? The children of the atom is a term that they do use. I think we know that that is not quite the case. There are older mutants, of course, we know that in future years, but at this point, it's sort of left to the imagination of the reader. And he decided to build a school for his X-Men. But look at the size of his head. There's some mega mind proportions going on here, but I guess we're going to see here that he's smart and capable, and he's got a big brain. And here he explains he had an accident when he was a kid, and now he can't walk. I'm interested to see how this develops because I had the thought that it was linked to his powers. It depends what media you're consuming. I could have sworn it was something to do with his, if he lost his powers, he could walk. But I don't know. That will come up in the future, I'm sure. Hank gets right in there, calls her beautiful, and she's sort of like someone's got to tell him to take her paws off her. Is this what people were like in the 60s? This is crazy. And oh, fantastic. Yeah, she sort of flies him away with her powers. Get off me. I was only trying to be friendly. Yeah, bit antsy, mate, I'm going to say. And she tucks him down to cool off. And we've got this panel here, you got to watch out, guys, because we're not the only mutants on the block. There's some bad mutants, and they want to rule the world. They're evil. Very black and white, that isn't it? We're good, they're bad. As we know, what makes X-Men so great is it's not always black and white. It's a little bit grey. Sometimes these quote unquote evil characters sometimes make a great point. But here in this first issue, Magneto's the bad guy. And here we go in the second panel featuring Magneto. He sets out his plan. Sick of the humans ruling the earth. We should rule. We're better. That is basically Magneto in a nutshell, isn't it? And here we are. He's talking about how he can feel the magnetic fields and he can do things with them. So he's sort of half showing, half telling, I guess. So it starts off with I can feel it, and then we understand as the reader that he's obviously in tune with that. But then he starts saying I can do stuff with this, and then you got these army guys. They can't figure out what's going on with these rockets, and oh no, the machine gun turns by itself and starts firing. But that's not all. You've got this cool panel here with the tank being moved as well. And this is great look, isn't it? He's magnetized the dust particles to leave a note in the sky. I've never seen him do that before. And I love the little signature on the bottom as well, like his time and autograph. And using his powers, is able to fire off the rocket. So it's so much more than just manipulating metal. He can do so much more. I think the average sort of casual fan who maybe having watched the movies assumes he can just control metal and that's it. But he's doing so much more here, and I think straight away we can see his powers are more than that. So we've got this panel here where Magneto's going to alter the magnetic waves so that they go from positive to negative and repel. I mean, this is one of those where in films and whatnot, I mean, even in comics you could do it. You don't have to explain that. You could just show it happening and we can work it out. But they do it all the time. Characters walking along, having these really long dialogues where it should only really be taking a second or two. This scene, if you want to call it a scene, but they talk through it. I can use my powers to do this. I don't know what happened in this panel. I don't know if the guy drawing the pictures and the guy doing the words had a conversation or not because they have to cover Magneto up. Some text here. I think I'd like to be seeing Magneto there, but we've got some words. So I don't know why they didn't just cover the guards up. They could have done something in the bottom left-hand corner. So I'm interested with that one. And we've got another draw up close shot to his eyes, mirroring the one that we had with Charles earlier. Is this a subtle way of telling us that he is Charles' equal? And you've got Jean, she's got a new uniform on, and look at these guys watching her. Wow, look how she poured into that uniform. I hope they weren't there the whole time. This is some really creepy stuff. Yeah, can't a girl have privacy? That's right, you tell them. Easy, gorgeous. Oh my God, this just gets worse. And then you've got these scenes here where Charles calls them in quickly. Quick, there's a new man on the scene. There's a villain. We've got to defeat him. This is some first day for Jean, isn't it? So the guys run into action, and you've got Bobby trying to put his boots on. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't think that's something that plagues him in future issues, but there you go. And I like these panels here. So you've got Warren taking his jacket off nicely, and he's had his wings sort of strapped down underneath it the whole time, and now he's free. I do like that attention to detail because, and I think this carries through throughout the years, which is they do take the time to stop and notice these little details of how they live and how they do things day to day, if that makes sense. That he could have just had a panel where he took a suit off and started flying around with his wings, but it's a nice touch, I think, that they stop and just address what that looks like underneath there. And obviously, we don't yet have the jet, do we? So they are being driven to the scene of the crime, and then they get in this remote controlled jet that does Charles is controlling it with his mind or something there. Very strange. I like this here. They just said, "Hey, we're the X-Men. Can we help?" But what? You who? And you've got this here where you see Scott stepping forward, and unofficially we're sort of being told that he's the leader of the guys on the ground. And for some reason, the army guys step aside and say, "Hey, yeah, sure, have a crack at it." I don't want to be the guy who says, "Well, that wouldn't happen in real life." Well, that seems a bit silly that the army would just step aside and go, "Sure, kids, have a crack." And then on these next panels, look, the rest of the crew are making their way to fight Magneto. Each of them showcasing their powers one last time before the big showdown. This is another example, look, where Scott's telling us, "I've got to turn up to maximum power." So instead of just doing it, they have to tell you that they're doing it. I guess that's part of the medium that has to happen. And you've got these scenes, look, where Magneto, you can see on his facial expressions, he's struggling. He didn't expect this sort of retaliation. So this is nice. Angel's flying around, avoiding the missiles. Something for him to do. I mean, I want to say Angel's not one of my favorite X-Men characters. I mean, maybe this is something that will unfold as the issues progress, but I never really saw what he really brought to the team as such, apart from his money. He uh, he flies around. He's got wings. It's not the best power. It's not the one I would choose, but it's nice that they can showcase him taking the missiles away from the rest of the group. While Bobby here, he's throwing some snowballs. He can do so much more than that, can't he? We know that in future issues, but he's just sort of just throwing snowballs at the moment. And we've got Beast. He catches one with his feet again, showcasing his athletic ability, and he releases it, and Jean takes over with the mine and plunges it into the sea. And here we are with Magneto. A very quick thought. Yes, they're young, but they're mighty foes. And here he is with his hands. He blasts some metal up, and he causes a problem for Angel. Oh, this is a really nice panel. It's one of the best ones so far in the entire issue. I like how Scott here uses his power to blast the metal away, and it's sort of an inverse of the colours, so it's being shown as white, and everything's flying away from him. It's a really powerful image. In this panel, look, you've got Bobby who's making an igloo shield. I guess they haven't quite figured out what Iceman really is here, because it would just be a block of ice these days, but it's sort of half snowman, half Iceman. Here we can see that the X-Men are not so easily defeated. Magneto thinks he's beaten them, and they smash their way out. These are strong-willed characters, of course, and Magneto just sort of flies away and masters his escape. So glad that they didn't just defeat him the first time. I mean, imagine if this was a one and done villain, would have missed out on all those years of great stories. But he gets away, and they're all, "Oh no, he's gone. What we're going to do?" And the army guys here look are shaking hands with them, and "Oh, cheers, guys, that's great." This is something that's going to change. We know that as people watching this in 60 years on. The prejudice hasn't begun yet, so we know up to now that Magneto thinks that he's better, so therefore he should rule. We haven't yet delved into that human mutant relationship yet, have we? So that's certainly going to come, and maybe soon. I don't know. And then Charles brings them back, congratulates them, and flies them home. And he superimposes himself onto the cloud just because he's back home, isn't he? And we sort of want to close out with his image somehow. And there he is. And that's the end of the issue. A really fascinating first issue of the X-Men. Some of it is very familiar to X-Men fans like myself in 2025. Some of it's new. You've got some really outdated values, I guess you could say, with Jean and how she's treated and how the guys are portrayed. That's something that has definitely changed, and that is not what I expected when picking this up for the first time. I didn't think that this was going to be one of my main reflections, but as a positive, the the guys who written the characters and created them, they've got this right first time, haven't they, with Magneto? And obviously the costumes will change and the characters will be tweaked, and all will be given more depth, including Magneto, of course. But I'm thrilled that Magneto's got that red and purple, and very not much has changed on that. If that was, you know, if people were asked to draw Magneto or describe him, that is more or less what he looks like. The rest of them, not so much. But Magneto for sure, and Charles, of course. So the core concept, the core characters, if you like, they're all there, aren't they? And that is very much endured. So I'm really pleased overall with that first issue, and I'm really looking forward to reading the rest. But what did you guys think to this first issue of the X-Men? Have you got any comments, any thoughts? Do you like the idea of these videos? Is there any other characters you think I should check out? I'm obviously going to look at Spider-Man and the rest, but interested to get some feedback. So thank you for watching. Appreciate your view. Please like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I'll see you on the next one.